Okay, so let's get real. How exhausting is it? How tiring is it? How frustrating is it being a spiritual seeker? Like, really. Once the shiny object syndrome wears off, once we peel back and strip it raw, and once we go back to life, you go on a retreat, we immerse ourselves in a new beautiful insight or teaching, and then Monday shows up, and Monday says, be damned with your seeker self. Bills to pay, relationships, life as it shows up in all its beautiful, horrendous, tough reality. So being a seeker for long enough wears us down, doesn't it? And I know the path, I know it very well. It can also feel really lonely. You look around and you realize, not many people are interested in this seeking of truth, in the seeking of the answers to the big questions. But the promise, the carrot on the end of the stick, which a lot of spiritual teaching seems to hint at or overtly just says, is that this is a path that ends the seeking, right? And that's like, oh yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to get to the destination that's been advertised. And I'm being a bit sarcastic here. It's a kind of quirky Cole vibe, which perhaps invites us to get a bit honest about this. And it's not to dismiss. I understand, and there is compassion for my own path of seeking. How I yearned for validation and how I went from one thing to the next, It's like being in the desert, seeking water and being thirsty. So going from one oasis to the next, looking for it. When probably we just want to end the suffering. We want certainty. We want something to stick, right? We want it to last. And in the seeking, all those burning questions that show up, we want to find answers that end the feeling of the question, that feel deeply satisfying. It's like being hungry. We want to eat a meal that ends the hunger. And then maybe it's temporary. We feel that for a moment, but then it rises again. So here are three things that I've noticed. See which ones you relate to. These three things get in the way of ending our seeking. And there are more, but these are three that I've noticed in myself, and I've seen it time and time again in those that I serve. The first is we go in search of answers in order to be right about what we've already experienced. That might sting a bit. It's like we want a teacher or teaching to validate that what we are experiencing, seeing in the spring of our soul, when we start to open and we start to have expanded seeing, we want someone to say, you're not mad, you are not crazy, this is real. And that is a beautiful reason, by the way, to seek. It's one of the reasons I'm making these videos. It's one of the reasons I show up in this capacity, is because I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to yearn to sit with a teacher who can see and to say, your seeing is right. The way you are seeing this, yep, thumbs up, you got it. Now, so that can be beautiful, but it can also mean that we're not willing to be wrong my word. And here's the truth. To turn seeking into seeing, is a kind of inner revolution. It's a type of dismantling process. And I can tell you with confidence that every time I've drunk from the wisdom well of my own clear seeing for myself, truly seeing something for myself, drinking from the wisdom well inside of me, it has totally changed the way I've seen something, and I've literally had to admit I'm wrong about that also. I'm wrong about that. I'm wrong about that. This has changed everything, and literally it is true for me to say, hi, my name is Colleen, and I've been wrong about everything. Like everything. And that is a brave thing, right? That's a brave thing for us to access. Can we be willing to be wrong? Can we be willing to shake loose even the most cherished ideas, beliefs, identities? And that's the second one. If you'd like a little bit of help figuring out what season your soul is currently experiencing, which could be a temporary moment or a more enduring experience, I have a free PDF. It's available on my website, colleen-joy.com. But if you'd want me to just give you a link, mention on the comment, and the PDF will guide you through some tutorial videos. It's free of charge, help you work out which season you're in and give you some guidance and loving tips so that you can support your own journey from the suffering of winter to the seeking of autumn to the seeing of spring and the serving of summer. Identities are so sneaky. We abandon one identity and grab another. We leave a dogmatic identity, I'm not that anymore, and we put on a I'm now not dogmatic identity. we abandon one identity, we toss one coat off, put another coat on. And having a spiritual identity is probably one of the most limiting ones and will absolutely bind us to being perpetual seekers. Because what we are seeking literally has the power to end identification, including ending the identification as a seeker. Sometimes what happens is we hear that idea, oh, what I'm eventually going to discover ends the seeker, I'm not a seeker. But we say the words, but we don't have the seeing to back the words up. Which ironically means we have to be honest about being seekers if that's what's true. Being a seeker means I'm not satisfied yet. I am still thirsty. I am still hungry. And that's probably really important. In fact, not probably, that is important to dig our wisdom well. First step, as I teach, which you'll hear if you follow me, and these videos are going to keep echoing this. Get our hands in the dirt, be willing to dig our wisdom well. And that is to say, the deep truth right now is that I haven't found enough understanding or seeing to say the hunger is gone, the thirst is gone, the questions feel resolved and dissolved. So it's one of the most important things you can do is to actually admit that there is still seeking, but I want to switch that around for you. How about we change seeker to seeking so that it's not an identity, so that it's like a verb. What is flowing through me right now is still seeking. There's a song of seeking still alive in me. Because when we can stop identifying with I am the seeking, you've already shaken loose the hold of the seeker path. You've actually started to really reorientate yourself in a way that is deeply supportive for the journey, for the realization of the deep true self. So instead of I am a seeker, how about seeing seeking as a kind of function, as a kind of song arising in the self? So we're not going to identify as the seeker or the not seeker, the finder. Oh, I'm getting right. We're just going to see, okay, the truth is there is still seeking like there is hunger. We don't identify with hunger. We just say there's hunger. Hunger is in me. Yep. Seeking is in me. Let's try that on. What changes? What changes when you ask yourself that question and when you go, hang on, let's feel, see what happens to the mind, the heart, and the gut when you let it land. I'm not a seeker. I'm not identified as this who is seeking, but it is true that seeking is in me. Like a song that I am noticing. And you know, songs, we feel songs with our nervous system. We experience songs. Some songs activate a resonance with sadness or excitement or peace, but they're songs. Hunger, thirst would be in me. I'm not in my hunger. My hunger is in me. Seeking is in me. And this already opens you to the truth of your being as boundless self, as pure open awareness. And then the third piece of this is that often we're seeking the wrong thing, not out of any fault of our own. I did this for, I don't know, decades maybe, because I just, no one tells us. And we think, okay, looks like they found it with knowledge. I need more knowledge. Looks like they found it through a teacher. Need more teachers. So, and it's not to say the knowledge is a problem, and it's not to say the teachers are a problem, although it can be. But this was the thing that really, really started to change the dynamic for me. The hunger became less or less frequent. The satisfaction became more over time. And I started to notice that the stronghold of identity and the pain of being a seeker started to ease. And that is when I realized that what we're really seeking is seeing. Now, in case you're thinking, hey, Cole, that's like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? What we're seeking is seeing. Identity, which we're just going to start with this level, okay? At the surface level, and then at the deeper level, we're going to just strip this away. Identity and seeing. We can replace these words. We can go I equals I, which has got a kind of poetic thing going on. And I should have put this the other way around if I wanted to match the other. Seeing equals being. I equals I. Okay. When we limit our seeing, we also limit our being. So when I believe I am a separate self, I also start to see as a separate self, and I see everything as separate. If I believe I am a limited, constrained little creature crawling around the surface of a little blue planet, I can only see as that, because seeing is being and being is seeing. As seekers, when we're a seeker, if we identify as a seeker, we've immediately put our beingness in a little box. And identity boxes are the ones that fundamentally limit our being, and therefore we can only see as the box. We can only see in that limited capacity. Does it make sense? As we start to shake loose our identification, when we realize that what we're seeing, what we're seeking is seeing. I am seeking for what I am seeking from. I is not something that can be found externally to us. It's not out there. It is the seeing that is the being. And I don't mean perception. So let's not confuse this. We're not talking about senses here. I know I used I equals I can sound like sense. But it's not perception. This is not about eyeballs and ears and mouth and sound. It is seeing. And of course, the other word for this is often used in non-dual language, and it also gets people confused, is awareness is not meant as perception. Like we can say, I am aware of what's in the room. I'm not aware of what's outside my office door. That's not awareness that we mean. We are meaning this that is aware. This that can say, I am aware. That is the being we are seeking. We are seeking seeing. This knowledge is wonderful if the knowledge points us in the right direction. And there's one more advanced piece I'm going to throw in here, and I know it's a risk, but stay with me. Something that intuition has taught me that, let me not explain it, over-explain it. Let's just put it on the table for you to experiment with. It all comes down to where attention is. Attention determines the song of life that we are tuned into. So if I have my attention in the contents of awareness, like let's say I have my attention on fear that is arising in awareness, then I am tuned into the song of fear. If I have attention on the seeking, which could be a question, you could have a burning question that you don't have a satisfying answer to. Now, when attention is locked on the question, we are not tuned in to the answer. We are tuned into the question. We are missing the thing. We are missing the space in which the song arises. That I felt like that got too confusing. Let's try another one. Let's say there is the home of your true self, which is your true seeing and being. And I say true as in it's always there. It is that which is aware of. And let's say attention is like an ambassador. And we need this ambassador to go out and harvest knowledge in the world. So attention leaves home, quote unquote, and goes and focuses on the contents. Attention is letting us tune in, and we need this to be functional in life. We need this to be a Colleen in the world that's mother and that's entrepreneur and that, goes to the shops or orders online or whatever Colleen does, yes? So attention is on what's called in non-dual circles the objects of awareness. It needs to be. And being a seeker, one of the biggest confusions that can often bring the most aha insight is that what we are seeking is not an object. So the habit of sending attention to something, even to a thought, even to a feeling, that habit of sending it to something, like throwing a stick for our beloved dog to run and fetch the stick. Fetch the stick, go fetch it, go fetch it. Oh my word, that was so quirky. We send attention to go find something. That's what seeking is, go seek something. But if attention is on the object, even the question, and it's not like we mustn't ask the question, we must, but we mustn't stay there, all right? When attention is on the object, we are seeking the wrong thing, because that means we're tuned in to the question, we're tuned into the objects of awareness, and this kind of seeking is different to seeking. If I'm seeking water, like as a physical being, I must drink the water, I must go get that object. But this seeking, the seeking of the self, we can't find the self as an object. So now we need to reverse this process. We need to call attention home. And we need to say to this ambassador called attention, come rest. Come rest at home. Because only when we rest attention, which means really rest, which is slowing down, being genuinely interested and realizing I am the seeing and the being I was looking for, which is something that knowledge can point to, but can only be known in the intimacy of our own experience, our own direct, felt, realized understanding. And it's not Hollywood. This is quite ordinary. You probably will realize that you've been bumping into this your whole life and just didn't recognize it for what it was. That the texture of this is peace, love, and openness, but all without opposites. That this is the openness that doesn't close even when the mind, heart, and gut closes. The brave question is to acknowledge, let's acknowledge seeking is tiring. Let's acknowledge you are not alone in your seeking. It is what all souls endure during the autumns of their unfolding. And autumn can be a Friday afternoon, or it can be 3-4 years, a decade of seeking. We touch into the autumns of our soul's journey when we are shaking the leaves of our beliefs loose. So the seeking and being the seeker, we ask ourselves, am I willing to be wrong? For the sake of truth, if we're hungry enough, often the answer is yes. Which means I'm willing to discover that what I think I am and what I am might be a different thing. Might be different, not a thing. It's not a thing. Number 2, are we willing to drop even our identity of being spiritual? Are we even willing to look at spiritual arrogance, which was one of the bitter pills I had to swallow more than once in my journey? And that any identity, any box climbed into is a box that limits us. And number 3, to realize, hang on, maybe I'm seeking knowledge instead of seeing and being. The power of the seeing and being as you truly are when you drink from the water of your own wisdom well, when you see for yourself, is that it tends to resolve or dissolve the questions. Where the mind is given enough understanding to be satisfied, the heart is given enough wholeness to not long an ache and desire anymore, and the gut is given enough felt sensation of truth that literally it's a nervous system recalibration so that the song of the self can sing through even what it means to be human. And that way, the seeker is dissolved, and we move from seeking, realizing the seeker was an illusion, but their seeking was real. We move from seeking to seeing and being. And when we see for ourselves and be as the self, doesn't mean seeking doesn't show up, just like autumn shows up still. But the deeper spring and summer of this resolving and dissolving to the point of more stabilized freedom and more understanding, wholeness, and the sense of self establishing itself so that it really does give us a different way to experience what it means to be alive. Not on a cloud separate from, but on the ground of, if I can say these words from the place that I'm speaking, not a lofty, identity-filled Hollywood sales pitch, which it isn't. Feel what I'm saying. Then we get to live enlightened lives in the real world. And then the seeker does dissolve, which is what we're here for.